Welcome to a special pre-recorded We Talk concerning Jillian Epperly's new book, The Evolution of the Jilly Juice Protocol. Can Humans Live Indefinitely Despite Their Environment? And this book was published via Lulu. Came out 2 weeks ago, and I just got my copy in the mail, so I am paging through it one at a time. This is my review, beginning with the back of the book blurb and the preface. So, before we delve into the morass that is Jillian's book, a few points I need to be clear upon concerning her book, and, as I said, topics to be discussed in her book, i.e., the blurb. 1. I do not like or dislike Jillian. I don't know her. The only way I know Jillian is by what she presents via Facebook and YouTube. 2. What I dislike concerning Jillian is her mind-numbingly stupid opinions and the ideology that she preaches. While everyone is accorded the right to have such opinions and have such ideologies, I also can critique said opinion and ideology. 3. Jillian's material has no basis in any science, the scientific method, nor medicine. She has done no legitimate lab research and relies solely on her own testimony or self-reported testimonials of her followers. At most, she has done literature reviews, and as I have pointed out numerous times on my blog, very poor ones at that. 4. Jillian has no education, training, or experience in any science or medical fields related to the topics she discusses. 5. As demonstrated by numerous blog postings on Havoc and Chaos, Jillian either does not understand nor comprehend the literature she reviews, or she doesn't even read the material. With that said, my critique will be presented based upon generally accepted science and medicine. Simply put, consensus science-based medicine. So offering cherry-picked data is not an option. Reinterpreting said information based on your personal belief or bias will not be accepted. One point that I should note: remember, Jillian has stated that information prior to February of 2020 should be ignored. As to her claim her information has been peer-reviewed, no, it has not. Her claim to fame are alleged references to her, air quotes, name in the academia edu database, to which she claims she does not need to provide any citation to such material. My name, B. Hambridge, by the way, is mentioned 191 times. On to the preface. In her opening paragraph, Jillian talks of introducing the idea of indefinite life, a notion that is not new, according to her, but her methodology is. She then goes on to claim that white table salt has been demonized by both the medical and holistic industries for reasons. The woo she assigned originally to pink Himalayan salt, she now assigns to white table salt. And then she goes on to pose this hypothetical question or questions. Jillian then goes on to make some rather bizarre assertions, concluding with this. To be honest, I really have no fucking clue as to how to respond to basically this garbage. As I noted with her first book, the periodic table is nothing more than a chart. It's a map showing how elements are related based on trends. Basically, the periodic table arranges all known chemical elements in an informative array. As for her other drug, what an individual consumes, i.e. eats or drinks, has no bearing, no influence on, as she says, geopolitical, biological constructs and social constructs. What you eat, unless you're imbibing in alcohol and in illicit drugs, isn't gonna affect what you think about said topics. So that's just a brief beginning. I'm going to try not to rabbit hole, as I'm notorious for that, and then my responses become unwieldy and really long, since I'm going to try to make audio versions of what I post. I don't want to make them too long because editing is a bitch. So the next posting and video, hopefully, will be on chapter 1. I'm going to basically, instead of tackling one or two chapters at a time, just doing one at a time. So far, like, chapter 1 was 1.5 pages, 2 pages. Chapter 2 is a bit longer. It's got more subtleties in it, so I think it's going to be harder, and it's probably going to take more verbiage to deconstruct. And based on my preliminary reading of chapter 1, it really does not bode well for the rest of the book. So stay tuned for the next installment. And before I forget, if you remember, I said that Jillian had posted previously on her Facebook page that any information prior to February, 14th was the date, 2020 was to be ignored. Now, in chapter 1, and I'm going to assume subsequently throughout the book, she refers to Jilly juice as a ferment. One problem with that: her testing was done prior to February. She also has a new recipe, which I'm going to assume is going to be discussed later in the book. This new recipe has not been tested, so she has no evidence that her drink is a ferment. Now, I'm not sure how she handles it in her book, because I'm going page by page. I'm not jumping forward, looking ahead, as I don't want it to bias what I'm looking at. I'm literally going page by page. So I don't know how she approaches this later on in the book, but yeah, she cannot claim that her her jelly juice is a ferment. She has not had it tested. And even if she did, if we were to go by her prior test, all that showed is that it had 13 million CFUs, or colony forming units, present. That doesn't tell you that it's a ferment. Period. I've discussed this over and over in various blog posts. She refuses to accept that notion and still call her drink a ferment. At best, it is cabbage flavored water with an excessive amount of salt. At worst, it is moldy cabbage water. As I have discussed numerous times, it takes more than 3 days to ferment. Bare minimum, 10. It takes 3 days just for the lactobacillus colonies to even form. Keep that in mind.